May the 27th. Lake level is 918 1/4. It's come up probably 2 feet since our last fishing report last week, and it's come up about a foot in the last 30 hours. So Beaver Lake is real high, and I think it's within a foot or two of flood stage. So they're dumping a lot of water out of Beaver, and all the rain we've had in the past few days, the rivers are running pretty good. So even without any more rain, I don't know how high the lake's going to come up, but it's probably going to come up a couple more feet. What it's going to do is going to kind of scatter them fish out. Water temperature is still about 72 degrees, but it's going to give the fish a lot more places to hide. Usually about 9:17, there's pretty good water in the bushes. Now at 9:18, it's going to be even better. But if it gets too high, a guy will have a tough time because the bushes will be a little bit too deep, and they'll be way back in there in the trees. There'll be a lot more places for the fish to roam. Now the spawn is still going on. There's still a few fish spawning from one end of the lake to the next. Topwater bite's still happening first thing in the morning. It didn't happen first this morning because we sat the storm out for a little bit. Now I'm not catching the numbers of fish that I was a week or two ago. Especially on that Ned rig. It seemed like a lot of the fish are starting to move out. They're still catching some real shallow, but most of them seem like they're backing out to that 15 to as deep as 25 foot. A couple different ways we're catching those. Catching some of them on a little miniature Carolina rig, and I'll show you a close up on this after a bit. If you're throwing a spinning gear, I'm throwing it on a 1/4 ounce weight, and this is a Crocker Gator mud bug. Looks like a little crawdad. You can also use a little lizard, a French fry, a Zoom fish dock will work. Any kind of small bait. Green pumpkin, watermelon candy seems to be the color. We're also catching them on a football jig. Green pumpkin orange seems to be working good, and I'm using either a Strike King Baby Rage Craw, or this one here has got a Zoom Ultra Vibe Speed Craw. I've got about 1 inch taken off of it, so it makes a little smaller profile bait. Now with that water coming up into the bushes, the last couple of days I haven't been doing any flipping, but that's something I'm going to start doing. And how I'm going to go about that, or what I'm going to go try to attack the bushes with, I'll use a couple different baits, but I'm going to use a Texas rigged, like a beaver style bait. This one here is a Strike King structure bug. Renovations Beaver works real good. Missile makes this one, which works real good. And like I said, here in a second or so, we'll zoom up and show you all the baits real good. But usually I always peg my weight on the Texas rig when you're fishing that buckbrush and stuff. I don't want the weight sliding, because a lot of times the weight will get down in the bush and the bait will get hung up on a limb. This way here, I'm sure that the bait will get through the limbs down to the bottom of the bush. And a lot of times I'll either do what I call a creature bait or a jig, either 3/8 or 7/16. In this particular jig, I've got a tube instead of a trailer. I've got a 3.5 inch tube bait on there, a little bit of chartreuse on the bottom. And also down lake, same place we're throwing a Carolina rig and a football jig. A tube is still working good. Green pumpkin, or that it's kind of a puke color works good. And I'm just putting a 1/4 ounce ball headed jig up inside of it, fishing it on the bottom just like a jig. I don't think it matters what kind of jig, what kind of tube. I use chompers, Bass Pro XPS, and the same with the jigs. I use pig stickers, but I'm sure a jewel will work, chompers. You just got to get confidence in your favorite jig as far as the football jig. And the same with the plastics. Most all the plastics are comparable to each other. A lot of them will work. Now, the topwater bite and the swim bait bite should continue, but with this water coming up, what a person might have to do, instead of out off of these deeper points, as shallow as some of the fish are, a lot of the fish should go right up into the bushes. We shouldn't have to wait too long, so they should go right up in there with the new water. And on these baits, if you want to zoom in a little bit, like I say, I've usually pegged the weight a couple different ways. This one here, I've got a rubber peg inside the bullet weight, or I'll use a bobber stopper. And I use a flipping hook. This is an owner. either Owner or Gamakatsu, and it's got a little deal up in here to help hold the bait. I'm using a 5, a 4 or 5. This particular hook here is a 5/0. Now on the jig, like I said, I'll use a 3/8 or 7/16. Depending on the color of the water, a lot with the creature baits. I'm going to stay with a green pumpkin, watermelon color. If I start getting into the dirtier water, then I'm going to use maybe a little black and blue. But we haven't had any real muddy water yet, but way up in the upper rivers, you might run into a little bit of mud. Now on this split shot rig, I've just got a quarter ounce weight with a Carolina keeper, about 18 inches to 2 foot of leader, 2/0 hook, and this is that mud bug, and like I say, a centipede, a French fry, fish doctor, a little 5-inch lizard, even a twin tail skirted chompers will work. Anything that kind of looks like a crawdad will work good on that. And another color that works good if you flip it up there in the bushes is a California 420, which Reaction Renovation makes. In the Biffle bug, they've got one. I think it's a watermelon, dark watermelon, and usually what they are is they're two-sided colors. Just like this is a missile bait. This one works real well. It's kind of blue on one side, green pumpkin on the other. So you kind of cover both bases if there's a little bit of dirty water in there. Now a lot of the top waters, we talked about last week. I showed you how to tweak a spook and a red fin and some of those baits. Now this is a Strike King, splash it. It's been working real good. I'm either using a small bait or a big bait. A pop-R will work good. A chug bug will work good as well. And a lot of the fish, we're seeing a few fish surface in the morning, but a lot of the fish I'm catching on top water, I'm actually throwing over deeper submerged timber and points, like a main lake bluff end, secondary point where a channel comes up against it, and those fish are out there suspended and just resting up from the spawn. And I think that's why a lot of the bite is kind of slowed down by the dam. A lot of them fish are starting to move out a little bit deeper, getting into their summertime places. The thing that'll keep them relatively shallow, as much current as they're running through the lake, and no warmer than the water, is we're not going to have a thermocline for a little bit. So a lot of the fish shouldn't get much deeper than 25 feet. I mean, I have caught some fish in 30, 35 feet on a football jig and flipping a spoon around some docks, but not very many. The thing is, right now, there's fish scattered from 30 feet to 2 foot. So, I'm kind of looking forward to this water coming up because it's something that we don't get to do a lot of flipping in the bushes. The other thing I would try in the bushes, especially early, would be a spinnerbait or buzzbait. And I would throw a twin willow leaf, one gold, one silver, and I'd throw it up around the bushes, through them. And what a person might have to do once that sun gets up, a lot of times we get to where we fish the old shoreline. So you might have to take a crankbait that runs 6 to 10 foot deep and crank the outside edges of the bushes. Some of them fish may not move right up into the bushes, but they'll move up to the old shoreline. So the next week or so, a person's going to have to change it up and move around quite a bit as to kind of stay with the fish as they're moving. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.